Hello and welcome to Makers.dev, episode number 67. Chris, 67 is a lucky prime. Do you know what that means?
I do not.
I just read the Wikipedia page on lucky primes, and neither do I. I think it has to do with, it's like a shortcut for finding primes. You like, it's a sieve method, and you start by eliminating every number divisible by 2, and then every number divisible by 3, but then I don't understand how that's different than just calculating what the primes are. It's a lucky prime.
All right, great.
Yeah,
there might
cool.
be. I bet there's like a Numberphile video about it or something. Numberphile has some great videos about prime numbers.
That's what I should have watched before saying this interesting fact. How you doing? How's your week go?
I am doing all right. Had a pretty productive week. We did co-working again, so I got a lot of stuff for Acorn Chat done, the Slack app I'm building, and the Kaggle essay competition finished up. That's what I did.
Let's dig into both of those. How did the essay competition go? I think we were looking hopeful. Had your international team?
Yeah. It was a neat team. We were spread out all across the globe, which is kind of neat. And it ended up, we dropped some places. The competition at the end was really fierce, I guess is the word to use. So we ended up in 31st place it was out of 2,000. So like we're top 1.5%.
Yeah.
But still not gold range is like top 1%. So we ended up in a silver range, no money or anything like that. It was like really frustrating at the end because like everything we tried was just like didn't help at all. So, but the like we talked about, the winners like sort of posted their solutions, like all the top 10 teams did basically, and they had some really neat ideas that we hadn't thought about. So next time I'll try those.
Can you break down in layman's terms what they were doing that you weren't?
Yeah. So one of the things is so what we were doing is for the essay, we were getting like basically a per token, which is like a word can be 1, 2, or 3 or more tokens. So a per token guess as to which category that token belonged to. Okay. And then we were doing some sort of manual, automatic rules, but manually trying to figure out how to break and so you get entire phrases, which are classes. So like, if you have this string of words together, then that's this particular class. And we had a few attempts at using some automatic, like more neural network kind of things to do that. And it turns out that the top teams just got that working better. So, for example, one of the things the top teams did is like we only allowed every token to belong to one class or another. But they really lowered that threshold way down. And so like you could have many a token belonging to many different classes, and then they used a network on top of that to predict whether that was true or false. And so like they used an initial big network to be like, these are the top 3 classes, say, broke those into phrases, and then for the whole phrase they fed that into a network to say, is this correct or not.
Oh, clever. Okay, so you were stopping at for this token, which can be some group of words. Is that fixed? Is it like 1, 2, or 3 words?
No, sorry, a word can be 1, 2, or 3 or more tokens. So,
okay.
Yeah, like so. Don't. The word "don't" is usually 2 tokens. It's "do" and then an apostrophe "t." That's 2 different tokens. Yeah.
Okay, so you were going from tokens, and a word has many tokens. You were trying to classify each token as to what it could be, and you only got one answer for what token that could be. And then, so now you're looking at a list of all of the tokens in the essay and what it could possibly be, and then your method was try to cluster that. So an apostrophe T is associated with a proving statement, a statement that is proven a fact, and so are these 3 other tokens that are within this sentence. And so, we can probably cluster that whole sentence into that this sentence is going to be proving a fact. And the winning team didn't just store what the most likely classification was for each token. They stored, it could be any of these 4 things. And then the next layer on top of that was, here is a list of all the tokens with their weighted probabilities of what part of the essay they could be. Do a little bit more computer machine learning to figure out an apostrophe T could be proving a statement, but it could also be citing a reference. And, oh, look at that. Actually, within this sentence, there's, yes, the first place categorization is we're proving a fact. But the second place for all of these tokens is we're citing a reference. So actually, it's much more accurate if this sentence is citing a reference. Is that right?
Yep, that's roughly how it worked. Yeah.
Cool. How interesting. Neat. Well, you learned a new technique for how to classify this sort of thing. I say this almost every time, but like, what you're doing is amazing. You're building a brain, and you're competing with other people for who can build the brain the best. Like, this is sci-fi stuff. We're living in the future. So cool. You mentioned also that you got silver, which sounds really good, but you sounded kind of disappointed. Is there a deeper meaning to getting silver?
So the medals are like you need a certain number of medals to get certain ranks. And so there's actually, by getting this silver, I will now have 2 golds, a silver and a bronze on Kaggle, which means my rank goes from expert to master. So that's kind of neat. It
Congratulations.
doesn't mean anything, really.
Master Rashad.
But
it means I'm going to start calling you Master.
That's right. But the rank that actually matters is Grandmaster. So if you get 5 golds, then you get Grandmaster, and that's when like companies start paying attention and like it like starts to matter more. So like people actually put on their resumes that they're a Kaggle competitions Grandmaster.
Gotcha. Are there rankings between Master and Grandmaster?
Nope, that's it. So I'm a master.
Not like, and master, pretty good master.
Nope. So I need, so I was really hoping to get a gold because then I would only need 2 more golds. Now I need 3 more golds still. Which is hard. So,
yeah. We're looking good still for the watershed, water equivalency project.
Yeah, the snow water competition. Yeah, that's in evaluation phase until June or something. Yeah, so I'm currently in 5th place, which would get me money. So hopefully, but 6th place is only it's like 0.1 behind me, which is very close. So it could be, it could go in either way. I spent a whole day trying to, I created basically a paper, like an 8-page document explaining what I did and where the errors are and all that stuff as part of it as well, because that's like a separate part of this competition is they want papers explaining it because they actually want to implement a solution. And so there are separate prizes for the top 3 papers basically. And only 16 teams I think submitted a paper out of the 33 that were able to. So the 33 that are in this evaluation phase were able to submit a paper and only 16 did. So I have a 3 out of 16 shot at getting some money for that too. So
it's pretty good. This is a much smaller group, and you said you need to be in the top 1% to get gold. If you're in the top 5, do you get gold?
This is on a different competition platform, so there's no ranking points or anything. Okay. Yeah, so it's just whether you get money or not.
Okay, this is not Kaggle.
Right.
Got it. Okay, neat. Well, I look forward to you being a grandmaster on Kaggle. It's going to happen.
Yeah, hopefully.
Cool. You mentioned also Slack stuff. I am intimately familiar with exactly what you've been up to on Slack. But when I was writing this down for Fileinbox, I think I said this last week too, like on the course of a Pomodoro or a day, it doesn't feel like I get that much done. But then looking back over the last week, I'm like, wow, that was a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff got done. So what's the high level week summary for what you got done on Slack this last week?
Yeah, I'm close to getting a Slack a Slack app that I can put in the Slack App Store. So today I finished up all the billing rough edges. So you can cancel your account and there's a 30-day free trial in my app, and it warns you properly, when you're over that and things like that. I'm pushing off. So, for example, I don't have automated emails or any messages that go out, because it's going to be, even if I got it done tomorrow, it'll be 30 days before anyone, has one of those emails go out. So I can push that off a little bit. But I have really boring stuff to do. I need to create a terms of service and privacy policy before I put it in the store and stuff like that. It's getting close to actually going in the Slack App Store.
Wonderful. It's so exciting. Also, I'm reminded of when we were talking about this a few months ago, just the way that we were thinking about the scope of each of these projects.
Yeah.
I feel like in our heads it was 1, maybe 2 days, and it'll be ready to go. But we've been consistently pushing this forward for 2 hours a day for the last several weeks, and it's good. We're making good stuff, and I don't think we're being uneconomical with how we're spending our time. Like, we're not just twiddling our thumbs. I'm seeing what you're doing every prom, and I'm like, yeah, that was a good thing to work on, and that should have taken about that much time. And it's taken weeks. So this feels like a very good recalibration of like how long things take. I think I tend to be very optimistic, which part of that's good because then I start projects more. But yeah, I'm learning to better tune how long things actually take.
Yeah, and I sort of talked about this before too. But like, so say we have 2 weeks of 2 hours a day, and maybe that's so that's like 10 hours times 2, right, of work.
Yeah.
And on a really good day, I can get like 10 hours of work done. But I haven't had those days recently because I'm doing my master's program and my Kaggle competition, right?
That's a good point. Like on the days where I'm just in flow and I'm feeling real manic and I'm just like, I forget to eat and I forget to drink water and I don't exercise, I can get a week's worth of work done in a day. So maybe when I'm framing it, like that's the sort of day that I'm imagining, but then that's not sustainable. Like,
no, yeah.
If I crunched the first 12 hours of work that I did on this project in a single day, I think I could have done that for like 3 days. And then I would have just been like, I'm done. So I want to do anything else. Right. So I think I'm further ahead than I would have been if I was just following that. And at the same time, like I'm living a balanced life. I'm doing other stuff and I'm catching up on administrative stuff. And this, I'm reaffirmed that this is a productive system for what we're trying to get done.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I've said this before too, but it really lets me manage my time better because I'm able to work on Slack stuff during the co-working time, and then the rest of the time I can, actually do machine learning and stuff without feeling bad about ignoring the other. So
yeah. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. That is I just feel better. Like when the fourth palm is done, I can just do whatever else I want without guilt. I don't constantly have looming over my head like, oh, I'm doing this flashcard thing, but I really should be doing Fileinbox. Because no, that's the deal with myself. I work on Fileinbox for 4 palms a day, and then I get to do whatever I want. I will say, though, I'm curious what deal I would need to make with myself to be able to bump up the amount of time. Because looking back over this week, we did 4 palms a day for every weekday, but then I took Friday off, and I meant to redo that on Saturday, but I ended up not doing that either. I worked on it for 8 hours and 11 minutes last week. And a part-time job is 15 hours a week, which is like twice what I did.
Yeah.
And like, this is the main thing that I'm doing. So I don't know. I guess if you combine that with administrative work, like that would get closer to those 15 hours. It just makes me, I've never had a full-time job. I've never had a job where like it's 40 hours a week. So I think I just don't understand how someone could work on the same thing for 40 hours a week for decades.
Yeah.
Because, like, this is me working a lot on this, like, more than I've been focusing on this in a while. And I understand the totally manic side of, like, if you're working on it for 12 hours a day, but how could you do that for consistently 8 hours a day? That just seems like too many hours on the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand how just everyone is not totally burned out.
Yeah, so I have had a job and I have worked consulting, and so I can say a few things about this. One is you don't have teammates, which means you don't have meetings.
Yeah.
And you also don't have to plan for the next sprint and do retrospectives and like all this stuff which takes up time. Probably especially when I was consulting, probably half my time was spent just collaborating with other people. Okay. So by being a team of one, no collaboration means about take out 40 hours, 20 of those 40 hours. Then the rest of the time, the other thing about being on a team is you have to make sure your code is readable and tested and all this stuff, and that takes a bunch of time. And I don't do that when I'm working by myself. I try to go as fast as possible and all this stuff. And I know where I can cut corners. Whereas when you're on a team, it has to be sustainable over years, right? Yeah. Whereas this code may not work at all, so just go real fast. And if it doesn't work, I can throw it away without feeling bad.
Yeah.
So that probably cuts the rest of that in half. And so now you're back down to about your 8 hours. Yeah, and then the other thing is a lot of people just waste a lot of time at jobs. I won't incriminate myself about doing anything like that ever, but when you're twittering on the clock, that counts towards your 40 hours, but technically is not work. So
yeah, get paid for pooping. All right, okay. Well, that's back in the reasonable range that it makes sense. Okay. Yeah, especially the friction of having to talk to multiple people. I think so that I feel satisfied in my answer for like why everyone's not burned out, and at the same time, I would love to be pushing myself a little bit harder. Of like, Elon Musk is getting so much done, and I feel like he's working for 60 hours a week, and all of those hours are as productive as my most productive hours. So, if there's a way that I could be either increasing my efficiency, which I'm constantly after, or increasing the number of hours that I can be working without resenting myself, I'm constantly on the lookout for ways that I could push both of those forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always some room for that. Like, we do have resenting yourself is a key thing though. Like, I feel really good about the number of poms we're doing. If it was more, then I might not want to do it as much. Like I would feel a little bad about it. When it's just 4 poms a day, it's like I can do that, no problem. So you have to worry about bumping up against the point where you start resenting yourself. And like we've talked about this before, the way Elon Musk gets that stuff done is he sleeps on the factory floor, and he's had 3 divorces, and so that's not the life I want. So.
And recently separated from Grimes. Unfortunately, he's now with
again, right? They had a second kid though after that.
Did they?
Yeah, they had a second kid. Yeah.
Are they back together? Last I heard, he was with an Australian model or something.
Oh, okay. Maybe they got pregnant before they got separated. Then I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. That it comes at a sacrifice. So it is a game of trying to balance that resentment. Along these lines, I wanted to tell you something I was struggling with for the first few weeks that we were doing this was doing that one extra administrative POM. Right. I just had so much friction, and I remember telling you, like, I don't want to do this because I am risking that this entire thing comes crumbling down, and like I really want to make sure that Fileinbox is locked in before I keep doing stuff. And something clicked for me this last week where administrative POMs became as fun as the Fileinbox POMs. Because it's all stuff that's like benefiting my life. Like, it's not... It's things, and things in the category that I put in administrative problems are like buying show tickets. And that's just a direct thing that, like, cool. I get to, the process of buying the ticket isn't necessarily fun. And if I had a more integrated system with my personal assistant, I would be able to just say, like, hey, buy me tickets for this thing, but we're not quite there yet. So I don't know what exactly changed, but I've flipped my framing on this as like, this is a fun treat. This is like, it's a grab bag of a bunch of different stuff. And yeah, there's going to be some stuff that I don't really want to do, like having to call my paramotor instructor and ask why if going today is going to be another waste of 4 hours. But that's if I intermix that with like, and also I need to shop for smart light bulbs, which is a thing I want to talk about later. And email is can be a mixed bag. Email is like a microcosm of this. There's some emails that are really fun and positive things that I'm getting, and there's some emails that are just like little hidden landmines that take up a bunch of time and emotional energy. But I don't know, something clicked, and it doesn't feel hard or dangerous anymore to be doing that one extra POM on administrative stuff.
Cool. And you're just doing that on Mondays? That's one a week, or is that one a day?
One a day.
Oh, you've been doing one a day. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Have I been doing one a day? Where's my... I can tell you exactly. I didn't tag a lot of it for yesterday. 3 hours and 24 minutes for last week.
Oh, all right.
Which is one a day, right?
It's more than one a day, yeah.
More than one a day. Good. So, and it's good. Feels good. So cool. That's along these lines. That feels like I don't know what exactly changed. I think part of it was just like doing it. I remember for starting the Fileinbox bombs on day like 2 or 3, I woke up feeling like this is a drag. I don't want to do this. And then something clicked and I got in the rhythm of it, and I had a few rewarding projects, and all of a sudden it was fun. And since then it's just been easy and effortless. And whatever that thing was that happened feels like this last week it also happened for administrative POMs. So I'd love to figure out what that was. I think it's just keep doing it and be reasonable. Don't put too many expectations on yourself. But now I feel like my identity has changed into someone who enjoys doing the administrative poms.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's good. Yeah, I think there's a lot to just once you get started, and it wasn't awful. Your world didn't come crumbling down. You still had time to do other things, right? So yeah, like just keep on keeping on.
Feels good. Let's talk about home automation.
All right.
What's your what's your current philosophy and ideas on home automation?
Yeah. So we have a smart thermostat, and that's about it. We got that because we like the app. You know, we can change the temperature from our bedroom. We don't have to walk downstairs. And the rest of it, I haven't yet really seen the benefit, other than I would like something to tell me if my garage door is open or not and could close it. That's the only other thing. Because like we left it open all night the other day, which is not great. Stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, my only other experience is my parents have some smart light bulbs that they can turn on and off with Alexa, which is good because, you know, they're getting older. And so being able to turn on and off the light without, you know, getting up from their chair or whatever is good. But it also doesn't work like half the time.
Yeah.
So that has been my experience with home automation.
Cool. As of so before Friday, I would have been exactly that. Down to like the only smart thing in home that I have experience with is the smart thermostat by Nest, which is great. You can like tell Alexa to change the temperature or whatever, and it works well. The smart AI stuff of it though hasn't quite worked. It's in Sarah's condo, and it like is very confused. It's not very smart. And I have experience with smart light bulbs, but they're really expensive and hard to set up, and so I don't currently have any in either of the living spaces that I'm in. But then Sunday happened. And, I have been lamenting a little bit that like I feel like some of my creative divergent energy has been more diffuse doing this Fileinbox thing. And on Sunday, I had in my mind, like, okay, well, I'm a day behind on my poms. I should really do 4 Fileinbox poms. But before doing that, like, it's Sunday. We'll play around a little bit. I want to look into this automation thing because I was talking about a project with Sarah where, specifically in the bedroom, if we had lights that were, reflecting the sunset, it would be better for sleep. And we've both been working on trying to improve sleep. So I started down this rabbit hole, and I didn't stop for, like, I don't know, 9 hours. I learned everything there is to know about smart home automation systems. And I have such strong opinions about the right way to do smart automation systems. And I ordered like $300 of stuff. Awesome. Part of it's just a lot of different stuff to test. And oh man. So I would like to present to you my summary. It's eventually going to turn into like a blog post and a video, but here's the rough state that it's in right now. My summary of what the best approach to smart home automation should look like right now. Are you ready?
Go for it.
All right. So, thank you. I want you to feel like you could say no, but also I really want to talk about this. So, Philips Hue is like the Apple of the space. The idea with Philips Hue is you download the Philips Hue app, and it has integrations with Siri and Alexa and Apple Home, and you can get all the Philips Hue devices, and then it all works pretty well together. The problem with that is you're locked into a vendor. Philips Hue is like 2 to 5 times more expensive than generic brands for this sort of thing. And their hardware's not as good, but their software game is the most on point. They have the best integration with stuff. They have the best variety of any individual brand of features and stuff. And it's kind of weird the way it's sort of integrates together, but it also sort of doesn't. I think the way that most of these smart home automation brands want you to approach this is you pick your home assistant, like either Google or Alexa or Apple, and then you pick one brand of smart home stuff. Philips Hue wants you to pick Philips, and then you buy their light bulbs, and you buy their switches, and you buy their hub, and then everything works together well. That's incredibly expensive, and it's incredibly dependent on a single supplier. Because now, if I want to go out to Walmart and buy a single bulb, like I can't. That light bulb is not compatible with my system. Another thing I don't like about this is it's really dependent on using a device, unless you get really in the weeds on like your Apple automation kit. I forgot what they call it, and then setting up rules on your phone for like, well, when this person's here, then turn on this light and do this other thing. So two things I don't like about that are like I don't like the vendor lock-in, and I don't like that your automation is limited to interacting with it on a phone. I don't think that's the right environment to be interacting with this stuff. It's very complicated. It's like you're writing a program, and the interfaces I've seen for doing this on your phone aren't very good. It's impressive that you're able to accomplish the type of complexity that you can with a phone, but like this stuff should be programming files and config files and things. There's another approach to take to it, which is like integrating everything in Wi-Fi. So if you have bulbs that are all connected to Wi-Fi, then you can start getting into like using if this then that for automation. And now you can start getting into more of like doing automation on your computer. And now you're less dependent on Google and Amazon and Apple as your hub. The problem with that is if your internet goes down, your house stops working. And also, it's really slow because the latency is like going up through the internet. So with all that in mind, I have a solution now that I think is the best solution where everything is local. There's no vendor lock-in, so you can buy whatever device from any manufacturer, and it's all going to work together. You can buy the Philips Hue. They have this really clever switch that goes over a traditional light switch. So you flick the light switch on, you screw this little switch on it, and then the switch is a button and a twist dial. And so now it's sending information that's like if you want to change the brightness or if you push the button. And then there's other smart things you can do, like it can recognize a double press or a hold, so you can assign additional actions to that. If you're going the standard route, that only works with Philips bulbs. But with my technique of how I figured out how to do this, that'll work with anything. And if you want to change that to like between 4 and 5 p.m., twisting that makes your music go louder, you can do that. And here's the secret. You go a lower level than the brands doing the home automation stuff. You look at the raw Zigbee is the wireless standard, and MQTT is the messaging standard. So Zigbee is analogous to Wi-Fi, and MQTT is analogous to like HTTP. So you can have HTTP requests that are going through Wi-Fi, and that's like the wireless band. This also accomplishes not clogging up your Wi-Fi network. Wi-Fi devices take a lot more energy. Zigbee is really, really low energy. You can just take a button and stick it to the wall with a tiny button battery in it, and it's going to last for years. You can't do that with Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi stuff has to be like plugged in or have a battery that's frequently charged. And there's a whole community of people that have done this. There's specifically an open source app called Home Assistant, and from that you can download a plugin. I haven't quite implemented this yet, so I'm a little fuzzy on how this works, but a plugin called Zigbee to MQTT, and now you're on a computer. And I think the computer, like a server, is the best hub for this. Zigbee also is really clever with doing mesh networks, so if you have like plugged-in devices, those act as relays. So if you have an unplugged button and you push the button and your hub for this is like way across the house, it'll go and bounce to like, oh, well, this light is on and connected to the internet. So first I'll go to the light, which is the closest thing to me, and then it bounces to wherever your server is. And through this, I think I'm going to be able to do everything I've always wanted. I bought so much stuff from like AliExpress and Amazon, and I can just buy the generic cheapo brand of light that's the best hardware, but the software sucks because I'm not using their software. I'm just looking at the raw data. It's transmitting this MQTT message over Zigbee, and then from that, I can do whatever I want with it. So that's, I think, the best approach to home automation, and I'm excited to assemble this smart house of my dreams.
That's cool. Yeah, that sounds really neat. What all are you looking at doing? You can do lights. Are you doing like blinds and stuff like that? What are you doing?
Yes. Blinds and lights make the most sense to do first. Specifically lights, like the biggest pain point, like the thing if I was going to sell this system to someone is light management is incredibly important for sleep. If you're looking at bright lights late at night, I forgot the exact pathway, but it inhibits a melatonin reuptake inhibitor or something. It physiologically stops you from feeling tired if you're looking at bright lights, specifically blue lights. But if you can set up a system where all of the lights in your house shift at sunset down to like a more orangey sunset thing, and then when it's bedtime shift down to red, that's going to have and really dim. That's going to have the most helpful. Red is still light, so it's going to have the least impact on your sleep wakefulness. And then in the morning, really important, as soon as the sun is up, as soon as you wake up to reset your circadian rhythm, it's really important to get sunlight, just like as bright a light as you possibly can, because that's going to wake you up. That's going to reset you. So you know your body knows that that's the time that the sun is going up. So for that, you either you want the curtains to open, and then also at night you want the curtains to close to block out any additional light. So that's and like to get a system like that, you're probably looking at like $300 and a little bit of setup, especially if you only do it in your bedroom. And the impact that has on your sleep is so much more than $300. If you could sleep, 10% better every night, I would make the case that is worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars in life improvement. That starts getting into like how much do you value your time and life improvement. But anyway, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. And then going crazy with this and realizing that now I can just buy any cheap old device that supports the Zigbee standard. I think what I want is automatic lights anytime I enter a room. So I just never want to think about switching a light switch again. When I walk in a room, I want the lights to turn on, and then when I walk out of it, I want the lights to automatically turn off. And when I walk up to the front door, I want the front door to automatically open. And when I am outside the house that I've left, I want it to automatically lock. And I could imagine future things I do with this of like I have other automations built up on this of when I'm leaving the house, it updates my time tracker, or that's really the only thing I've thought about. And like in a situation where I'm trying to do some sleuthing of like, oh man, did I go back in and whatever, turn off the oven? Well, I think I went in, but Sarah went in after this. So hold on, did she go in before or after me? Because she turned it on and I turned it off. Oh, let me look at the log. Oh, okay. This was her leaving. So yes, the oven's off. That's okay. Then there's some other things of like, there's water detectors and vibration sensors, and door open and close detectors. So I got a bunch of those. I think the water detector is going to go under the sink. And then if there's a flood, it blasts an alarm and like text me or something. And the door open close detectors, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I could have that like when you open a door to enter a room, that's one of the triggers that makes the lights turn on. And then there's outlets, smart outlets, that that's another thing. This plugs into my ERV system. Right now, I have to manually shut on and off my ERV, but it's running a lot of the time when it doesn't need to. The main reason I have it is if CO2 gets too high. But what happens is I'll have it running, CO2 gets low, and then it continues running, but it doesn't need to. The only thing it's doing is like leaking temperature and humidity. So I'm going to make a Zigbee adapter for my ERV and then hook that up to an air quality sensor. Also on Zigbee, they sell Zigbee things that just broadcast what the air quality is for a specific room. So now I'm going to have an air quality sensor in every room of the house. And maybe eventually I'll have like an ERV in every room in the house too, or like vents that turn on and off. But the first automation I'm going to start with is just like only turn on the ERV when it's actually needed, which is when you get this Zigbee MQTT message that says that the CO2 is too high. So that's what I'm starting with.
Cool. Yeah, that all sounds neat. I'm excited to see where that goes. For water sensors, you talked about under the sink. My dad actually has water sensors as well, hooked up to his networks. The most important places for those, if you hadn't thought about them, are under the water heater, because you rarely check that, and that leak, that like the whole bottom can fall out. And then if you buy more, then under the dishwasher and the washing machine. Cool. Those leak far more often and they leak a lot of water when they leak. So
yeah, that would. Okay, noted. Yes, I'll have to do some digging in the house to figure out where that water heater is. I don't actually know where that is in either of these houses that I'm living at.
Yeah, if you don't know where that is, I would look that up first.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Something else that I saw someone do that I didn't buy the thing for this yet, but if your house has like a big whole house shut off. Yeah. The video I saw of it is like in the basement, but I think the one for this house is on this, like in the yard. They have Zigbee enabled devices that you can put on that thing that can be an automatic shut off. So you can set up a rule like if water starts leaking, turn off the water to the whole house and then send a message saying what has happened. And that just seems magical. That would save potentially a lot of money. I just need to think about like, I don't know if I have access to that valve in the place where I would need it.
So the other thing that I would say is you almost certainly have a water shutoff valve in your house somewhere. Figure out where that is, because that could that could absolutely save you. Like if a toilet explodes or something, then you really want to know where that is.
I had to do that actually at this house, the one that I'm renting. Last week, the shower wouldn't turn off. It turned on and it was just constantly flowing, but if you switch the valve, it wouldn't shut off. And I'm very proud of myself. I knew of the existence of the shutoff valve, and I had seen it at my parents' house that it's like on the street. And I went out and found it and turned it off, and I went back in, and the water was still on. And I was like, what? and then I went back out and found another one, and then I turned that one off, and then that was actually the one.
What if it like exterior water and interior water maybe or something?
Yeah, I may have turned off the sprinkler system. I should probably make sure that one got turned back on. But yeah, like that one in particular, I think I need electricity and to be able to put this thing in. And maybe it just has like a huge battery, because it would only need to do that like once.
My guess is you have another shutoff inside your house, so the water heater almost always has a shutoff for both cold and hot water right next to it. Okay. So you live in Texas, and so it might be different there. So in Indiana, like the water shut off outside. There is one outside, but it's really deep. It has to be more than 4 feet deep, and so you need a really big special tool to turn it off. I guess the valve comes up higher, but yeah, the actual shut off is always inside the house. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, I need to do some sleuthing inside both these houses then. Sarah's condo, I know she doesn't have a water heater. I think it's like a condo-wide water heating thing. Okay, yeah. I think. And then I have no idea where her water shutoff would be, or even if... Well, she would have to have an apartment-specific shutoff, right?
Yeah, I'm sure she does, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because if you're doing construction in a condo, like, you wouldn't want to shut off water to a whole group of condos. Yeah, okay. Okay, I need to find that and figure that out. And then, man, what a superhuman I would feel like if like this automation system that I did actually worked, and like there was a flood and it just immediately got shut off, and there's a gallon of water on the floor wherever that thing is, but we weren't home, and so we find out about this like a week later, or in a different state or country or something, and the response would have been like, try to contact someone local who can drive out there, and it's going to be a minimum of like 2 hours before you can get someone there to actually shut it off. And by then, a lot of damage has been done to, my little robot that I installed automatically shut it off. We can continue vacationing.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's why my dad started doing all this, because his basement flooded, I think, twice. Like, and he was like, I'm fixing this problem. So, yeah. Yeah. He lives in an older house, and so he has all sorts of problems with the sump pump. Like, they don't make that style anymore, and so we had to like figure it. Yeah. Anyway, so that's benefits of living in a more modern house, I guess. But
or an older house with more modern brains.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's a good retrofit. Second thing I would love to talk with you about. I have been doing work off and on for my friend Trig, who's a professional magician, and feel so much pride that like he's on TV doing tricks that we developed together. It's so cool. Like I'm looking at an app on someone's phone, and like on TV they're showing like this person controlling a robot on stage, and I'm looking at the phone and like I made that app and I made that robot do that thing. It feels really cool. Yeah. And up until now, I've just been doing it for free because it's really fun projects. It's like figure out how to do like image manipulation. Well, I don't want to go into details on that one.
Magic.
Exciting. Magic. It's things like, figure out how to get this robot to work, and like how fun is that? And he presented it to me as this project of like, I don't think this thing is possible, and I was like, let me try something real quick. And then 4 hours later, like it works. Nice. So that's just such a rush for me. It's so much fun. So he presented a project to me that I can't talk in too much detail about, but it involves sending text messages. And he pitched it to me, and I think it's a really good idea. But like, there's nothing creative about it. There's nothing exciting of like that. I think it'll be a fun technical challenge, or that I don't know that it's possible. I know exactly that it's possible, and I know that like what the work would do. I just wasn't very excited about it. And I've been spending more money recently, so I have like I can equate money to things that I would buy, like for a contracting job of like $2,500. I can say like, okay, well, that would buy this paramotor stuff or this home automation stuff. So I uncharacteristically told him, like, usually I would just say I'm interested in this or I'm not interested in this, and if I'm not, then he'd find someone else to do it. And instead I said, I can do this for money. And that's a novel thing to me, and I understand that's not a novel thing to other people. Definitely not novel to you, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are on. He's super excited about it. He heard about that and was like, "What? You'll do things?" Well, that's what I've been wanting all along. And I don't know that I can quite articulate what my resistance was to doing that before. I think I didn't want to steal focus away from what I was doing, and I don't know. I'm curious on your thoughts on that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So my normal reaction is, do stuff for money. That's great. This is different though. So if he's like a friend, so I have done work for friends before, and like whenever possible, if it's not going to take much time and I'm excited about it, do it for free. Like, whatever. With no expectation. As soon as you take money for a project, then any project with him going forward, you're now going to have to do this weird dance of, is this free or is this, paid? Also, as soon as he pays for something, then the expectations are different. Like, he might expect support and, stuff like that. So your relationship with him will change. So just think about that. The other things you can do are say, I can help you find someone that will do it for money. Like if you want to do it, whatever. And then the other things are like, I'm guessing magicians probably don't have that much money to spend on tricks. Maybe they do. But if it's not that much money, then now you'd be working for a price which might feel too low, and that actually often feels worse than doing it for free. So the things I've done in the past also for things like that are like, I will work for, I want this neat, $200 item that I can't justify possibly spending it on. And, if you were to pay me, it would be $10,000, but I will accept the $200 item as, something like that, or, like paid in, free food or drinks or something.
So something intangible that's not like something he's been able to get for me is like backstage access to famous magicians, and like tickets at the Magic Castle and things. Or take me out to dinner at some crazy fancy restaurant that I would never go to myself. Stuff like that. Those are, and that's still 10% of the price he would have paid. But then it becomes a nice an experience for both of you. So those are some things. The other option is just take the money for it. I have done work for friends for money that hasn't necessarily changed a lot about our relationship or anything like that, but it does add a dynamic to it. I like that angle. That's a really good characterization, that once you take money for something, your relationship changes. He has more expectations that I'm going to support this, and that's something we talked about last night. And also now there's this weird dance of, am I doing something for free or is this paid? I like. I was feeling really gung ho about this.
Sorry.
No, it's good. That's what I wanted.
The other thing might be, so with entertainment, it might be possible for him to get it done without him paying for it. So, as an example, you said he went on a TV show recently.
Yeah.
If the TV show has a budget, then maybe they could pay you, something like that.
I think he wouldn't want to do that.
Because then
the TV show is paying him to be on.
But then he went on the trick,
And also, would they own the thing then? He's very secretive and wants to keep everything close to his chest. If it's a thing that only he has, that only he knows how it works. And magic as an industry is so weird. But that's the way it works.
The other thing you could do is you could offer to do it for him by teaching him how to do it himself. Does he have any desire
trying to do that
to learn how to code?
Decades. Yeah. He so does, but my gosh, this guy does so many things.
It sounds like he's doing a lot,
He's managing his own business, and man, a typical week for him is involves 5 flights. It's nuts. And the stuff he brings with him, it's like suitcases. I went with him on a trip to, I think it was Panama. I think it was Panama. He got me on a Disney cruise for free. It was really, really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So I guess the mode that we've been in is like trading favors instead of trading money.
Right.
But he needs so much stuff, and so I think if there was a simpler way for us to be interacting like this, it would be like more cool stuff would get made if we can figure out a way to navigate that dance.
Yeah, I mean,
but
the other thing is, I mean, he might just have a budget. You know, like if he has a number in mind and it matches up, then yeah, I wouldn't stop you from taking money for your time. Obviously,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which he does. And you mentioned like magicians don't have a lot of money, and you're correct. But he mentioned a figure like $2,000 to $4,000 for this text messaging app. And serendipitously, I've built something really similar on the back end to the thing that he wants, just for myself. And so me looking at this, I'm like, well, I would just need to go from the thing I already have to like these changes on the surface. And in my head, I'm thinking like, this will take me a day. So I don't know how accurate that is.
So probably 2 weeks.
Yeah. And like for a day of mental work for $2,500, I'm like, yeah, I would do that. And even if it's a week, like, yeah, that makes sense. I would do that. A question I have is, when you do consulting, how do you handle maintenance? What's the way to handle scope creep and if they want changes made and stuff?
Yeah, it varies a lot, but just make sure it's in the contract. So a lot of my contracts were actually like, I will work half of my time for a certain price per month. So that was like my favorite contract to do, because there's no scope creep, right? I mean, the scope creep is like, this will take longer. Like if you want more stuff done, then, you know, like say we thought it was going to take 3 months at, you know, half my time, then it might take 4 months. And if you're willing to pay that, then sure, I'll just, you know, extend the contract by another month. So I did only a few fixed scope projects, exactly because of that reason. And yeah, my only advice there is to like over communicate about things. So like in the statement of work, it doesn't have to be in the contract itself, but in the statement of work, just like put exactly what you're going to do. And then if that changes, you know, there is some reasonable number of changes that will happen, you know, once you get into it and realize what's possible, or, you know, whatever, like some reasonable amount of changes. But yeah, if it goes beyond that, just be like, you know, that's beyond the statement of work. So I can always offer a trade-off is my recommendation there. So it'd be like, I could do this and it would take this much longer and cost this much more, or I could do this, but that means that this doesn't get done, you know. So like always present a couple different options. And usually the person will just be like, oh, I didn't realize it was a lot of work. Just don't do that. Like often what people ask for as changes are they're like optional changes, is what I found. So yeah, I don't know if that helps in this situation, but yeah, offer alternatives and over communicate.
I don't think I understood what you said about half time, that half of your time was...
Oh yeah, so say I have 40 hours a week to work, then I will sell you basically 20 hours a week per month. So like they're usually monthly contracts. Yeah.
Okay. You're not signing fixed scope contracts. You're selling a certain amount of your time per week per month.
Yeah, so I started by doing a few fixed work things, and on one of those I really made out really well, in another I really went underwater, and like I don't want this crazy dance every time. So when I was doing consulting like full time, I would have often like one halftime project, and then maybe I would pick up a couple fixed work, or like just variations on fixed work. I guess there's lots of ways you can splice it, but yeah, I liked selling time for money per month.
Okay.
Yeah, for stability.
This project to me, and I'm sure I'm going to be eating these words later, has a very limited scope. Like, I know exactly what's entailed with it. I've done all the hard technical things that there are to do with it. And I feel very comfortable with a comfortable margin for $2,400. Like, I could swallow several changes and still be ahead, and I could encounter several layers of unknown difficulty and still be fine. I think specifically what I'm curious about is like, if he then wanted to say like, oh, actually, yes, this is the thing that we agreed on, but I would love so much better if there was this whole other thing. I guess we could just renegotiate from that perspective. But I think specifically what he's wanting to iron out is like, if there are small changes that he wants to make, what's our ongoing agreement of how those small changes get done? Is it just an hourly rate after that? And I keep track of the amount of time. And then when he asks for a change, I give him an estimate of how long I think it'll take. I'm not sure how to do that, Dan.
Yeah, that's one reason I don't like small projects, because, like, for example, your negotiation on your, like, statement of work after the initial thing is done, like, say that takes you an hour or two to put the documents together, and then the work takes an hour. Well, like, that's now you're doing more dance in the negotiation than you are in the work. Yeah. Also, things like, so he's a magician. This probably will break half an hour before a show. What's his expectation of the server, like, maintenance going forward? And stuff like that. Yeah.
We have a pretty good history of me building stuff that he uses live in the show. And sometimes it does break. But, like, as far as I'm aware, it works most of the time. And if it breaks, it's usually not my fault. And part of showbiz, I think, is just, like, you have multiple outs. If something completely breaks, you just say, like, well, I guess it's broken. On to the next thing.
Look at this
How
card
about
trick.
A card trick? Yeah. And we have a lot of built-up trust of, like, the stuff that I made for him just for free in exchange for, Disney cruises.
Right.
Has worked really well for him, and it's stuff that he's, like, performed on TV that has worked well. So, I think I'm just going to do, like, a really simple this much per hour for additional changes as a outside of the scope, and for each change we can talk about it beforehand, and I can give you a rough estimate of how many poms I think it'll take, and you get 2 poms per hour.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the better and closer your working relationship has been and is, the easier these changes are. I don't necessarily see any giant red flags or anything. Like, I think it'd be fine. Yeah, if you want to make some money, then yeah. And if he said $2,000 to $4,000 and you charge him $2,500, then that gives him a budget for changes later too. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I'm back to feeling good about this.
Okay.
I'm glad
then you can buy a new paramotor or something.
Exactly. Oh man, Sarah's making so much fun of me. I want to buy an electric one. I own a gas one. It was very expensive. And the electric ones are so cool. They have such limited range though, so, like, it sort of does make sense that I would want both. But oh man, I don't need this. I don't need it at all. But it's so cool.
How about you fly once and then? How close are you to
Well,
flying once?
okay, but here's a dimension of that is it's much easier to learn on the electric one.
Yeah.
Because the gas one is like a whole thing of, like, you got to start the engine and you got to make sure the pump's primed. And it's just a lot more complexity. And the electric one has a very limited range. You can only fly for like half an hour. But when you're learning, you're really just doing takeoffs and landings.
Yeah.
And the complexity of the electric one is just like you pull the throttle and then it starts going. So it would kind of be safer if I get the electric one.
Really, it makes sense.
But then once I learn, I'm going to need to keep the gas one because I'm going to want to be flying for much longer. So I think I just convinced myself to get it. I think as soon as this contract goes through, I'm absolutely going to.
Now you got to charge money for it. Just
no, I got to. No.
Buy your electric paramotor.
Oh, man. I want to do a quick recap of what I did on Fileinbox. I am totally on track to finish for my friend Brian Richards for the recording conference talks. It's possible tomorrow he'll be able to do it, and I'll have a working beta. Some rough edges of, like, email notifications are going to get sent out, but it feels really good. So summarizing this at the level of a week, I had just started last week on the screen and video recording. And this last week, I polished it all off. And you got to see a lot of the frustration with that. You called it building a moat that, like, handling all these stupid edge cases of stuff now puts me in a position where it's much harder for other people to do this. And, like, now that I've ironed this whole out, so that it was a slog to get through, but I have it figured out now.
Yeah, and that came from the Art of Product podcast. That's where I heard that. And I think they stole it from somewhere else, too. But, yeah, building a moat. Yeah.
Good. I hope someone else steals it from us. So I finished that whole component. It's the most complicated component in my entire app. There's a lot going on. There's streams and blobs and uploading in multiple different states. And my gosh, the number of different ways that you can, for 3 toggles of, like, your camera and your microphone and your screen, there's, 3 factorial different combinations? 6 6 actually doesn't sound like that many. It's a lot. There's six different combinations.
Well, for every one of those too, it could be on or off. You could have select all your different, like you were struggling with microphone selection and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, if you
mirrored or not mirrored.
Yeah, mirrored, not mirrored. Also, if you record something and then you're watching the recording and you want to re-record, so you cancel it and you go back, now you have to delete the blob and reset the camera, and that was an edge case that didn't work at all and totally should have. But I figured out a way around it that, like, if you shut it off and then request it again, then it comes back on. So yeah, it was a lot. And I'm sure there are edge cases I'm not taking care of right now, and I'm sure I'll find out about them once Brian actually starts using this. But we're going to get something that has a happy path through it that works on Google Chrome if you don't do any of these other things. And actually get that uploaded. So that feels good. I had an interesting tidbit that I just wanted to mention briefly. There are two hard problems in computer science: cache invalidation, naming things, and off by one errors. And I encountered the second of those two problems this last week, trying to name the thing that is the collection of data that someone enters into a form that someone has built. What is that thing called? So, like, you've made a form, and I call that a page. For legacy reasons, it's an upload page, and you create that and you say, okay, I want someone to enter their email and I want someone to upload these files. When someone visits your page and enters that data and then hits send or upload or whatever, what is that blob of data called? And I talked about that with you, and you had two great recommendations of, like, you could call it a response or data. Actually, one good response. Data's not good. I don't like data.
I don't think data's any good.
Data's too ambiguous. Yeah. But it was just an interesting thing of, like, my initial impulse was to call it a submission, but I kind of don't like that word. It has a bad context. Same with, like, master does. I think there's a way in computer science to change things from master to main. Particularly in Git. And I was thinking, like, entry or answer, but I settled on response. And I guess that's it. Naming things is hard.
Yeah.
And I like the name response.
Yeah, hearing that all again, I think I would still choose response. That's probably what I'd choose. But yeah, I mean, if you get the thing wrong, then it's stuck in your app, unless you want to. And there's never a good time to, like, refactor that, So you're just stuck with this sort of mental debt forever if you name something wrong.
It's mental debt. I had that with the old Fileinbox on Rails. I wanted to call files, but there's a native file object in Ruby, so you can't call it a file. So I named it a file upload, and just I have typed out the word file upload thousands of times, and I wish there was a better name for it, but like, it's not worth it to change it because it's going to break so many things if I try to change it. That's a minefield I don't want to walk across. But also at the same time, I don't want to get mired in, like, this. I have to think of the perfect name because then I'm just going to be paralyzed and not move forward. Right. So it's a delicate balancing act.
Back when I had a job, there was a very interesting case of this where we were tracking things, right? And what do you call a thing that you're tracking? Well, we called it an item. But item is very generic. It worked when we did it, but it kind of had this weird result, which is whenever we had to add functionality, we always just added it to item because item is pretty generic, right?
Yeah.
And so in the end, it would have been better if we probably split out different things. But for velocity and stuff, like, just picking a name and sticking with it was fine. But yeah, every time I typed item, I was like, that's very generic. But yeah.
I like that angle on it, that if you're not naming something specifically enough, there can be scope creep in what that thing does. That's an angle I hadn't considered. I'm reminded of, I think the novel's name is The Name of the Wind. It's a sci-fi fantasy novel where the idea is that there are these magicians, and the way that the magic system works is if you get the power to name things, then you can, like, manipulate the world. And I remember the first time I heard that thinking, like, that's kind of hokey, naming things. So, okay, whatever. But, like, that's kind of what gives you power over things. If you can name them, if you can define, like, this is the edge of the tiger, this is what a tiger means. Now I can throw all these attributions at the tiger. I have power over the tiger now. Now if I see a tiger, I can run away from the tiger, or I can throw a spear at the tiger. Versus if it's sort of hazy and ambiguous and there's not a name for the tiger, well, now it's just like there's me and there's not me, and sometimes things that are not me hurt me and try to eat me. What you can't really do anything with that. Like, And it's so salient in software. Like it really is a hard thing to be able to define. Like, okay, this is the edge of the boundary of this thing, and this is what this thing is responsible for. And oh, it's getting a little too big. Ooh, chop that off, make it its own thing, and name it this other thing. Naming things is a surprisingly demanding intellectual task.
Yeah. I've used that before. That names have power, and I don't know. Maybe it comes from that novel. I don't know. But yeah, in like a couple different ways, it's very, very important. Like one is, like you've mentioned before, that the audio on this podcast sometimes gets crinkled or crackled, or we don't know. If we knew the name for that, then we could Google for it and we could find the answer and we could fix it. But we can't, so we don't, right? Or we don't, so we can't. And then the other thing I'll mention is like, so in my 20s when I started experiencing anxiety, I did not have the name anxiety for it. I had like, I feel gross when I'm in a car, and I feel like all these generic weird symptoms. But as soon as I had the name anxiety for it, I could link all these things together, and then I could actually tackle it with like solutions. Getting a name for something important.
Those are really good tie-ins. Yeah. Right now, this crinkling audio problem has power over us.
That's right.
We got to name it so we can flip the power imbalance. Fantastic, Chris. That's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Actually, tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
Have I been saying next week? I've been seeing you every day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Everybody else will see us next week.
I'll see you, the visitors, next week. Goodbye.
Bye.